Hey everybody, I'm Magnus and welcome back to my channel. Alright, well hey again. So I decided to go ahead and do a second video today, hence the reason I'm wearing this same shirt from my last video. But this is a video that I've kind of been thinking about. When I first started practicing, and I guess practicing through like reading books and learning that way, I was very confused as to what tools I may need for the craft or for my practices. And so I think that's what I decided I want this video to be about. I want to go ahead and talk about it. So I will make this lesson number 9, and it's going to be tools for beginner witches, and are they needed? So let me just go ahead and get it out of the way. No, they're not needed. Just typically, no, they're not. Look, I'm going to go ahead and catch myself. I'm going to try my best to not say typically like 30 times like I did in my last video. But the reason I say this, though, is because about typically not being required, there are some covens that you may be a part of, certain secular paths, certain just certain traditions, or like if you have like a religious kind of connotation to your faith or your practice, or if you work with certain deities or spirits or something like that, you may have certain kind of tools of some sort that may be required for your practice. But other than those kind of exceptions, just on a everyday average path of a average practitioner, you don't really need any tools. You yourself are the most powerful tool that you'll really need, like truly. Like if you go back to the very big basics of grounding and centering and working with visualization and energy manipulation between yourself and the earth and working with the energies around you, you really don't need any tools for anything. Now, with that being said, tools actually come in handy quite often. I guess definition of what a tool is, I don't know if I really should give a definition. Maybe it explains itself. It's a tool. It's an item used to assist the practitioner in magical workings, or I guess magical or spiritual workings. So a tool in this case here, the more common ones that you see through TV and books and things like that, are like the cauldron, the besom or the broom, a dagger or chalice, an athame. You see a staff, or what some refer to as a stang. You see these things that are you see a bunch of plants, you see these things that are like everywhere that they have in these shows. You don't necessarily have to have any of that. Now, every tool has some kind of correspondence, or comes on some. I'm getting tongue-tied. Look, I can't even say the word there. Every tool has some kind of correspondence or like representation that it has. So whether it's going to be for an aesthetic look, like it's just something you just want there because you like that tool, you just want to use it, or if it's because it adds its own energy or its own corresponding energies or whatever to the purpose of your intent, your working or your situation. But the main thing that I stick with is that you really don't need tools. Okay? But if you're animate about going out and getting tools and getting stuff for your practice, that's kind of why I created this video, to kind of give you an idea of the few basics that I think you would to get. I don't want to say need, because again, I don't really feel it's needed, but anyway, just something to get started with. So, jars. Jars is the first thing. You can use jars for everything. Jars can be used for spell work of all sorts. Jars can be used, of course, to store stuff in. If you're doing some kind of working, or you got some herbs or something like that you put in there. It can be used for all sorts of things, and you can use any kind of jar. Any jar you get, spaghetti sauce, jelly jar, whatever, as long as you clean it out really good and it just doesn't have that lingering smell of it, you can use that jar for whatever you'd like. And so you can also, if you want to go out and purchase jars, you can do that if there's a particular style you like. I do suggest not getting jars with cork lids, just because you don't know the purposes that you're going to be using these bottles for, or these jars for, and if you decide to put liquid in these jars, liquid and corks don't last very long together. It can cause molds and bacteria and stuff like that to grow up around it, so be cautious when doing that. But anyway, so jars is a great one. I do suggest herbs, at least a few different kinds. If I was to suggest herbs, I would probably say like rosemary, basil, even oregano, peppermint. Some of these have really great spiritual uses, and some of them also have spiritual and medicinal uses. Thyme is a great one to have around. Anyway, there's several plants that I can go into because I am a plant fanatic. I love plants. I love to garden. That's kind of my thing, growing my own herbs and everything. So anyway, that's just a few of those. Salt. It's always good to have salt around. Now, if you're going to be doing work outside and you're going to be using a lot of salt, actually I suggest not to use salt, because salt will kill the grass or kill whatever is growing wherever you're going to put it. A great substitute for salt that I think is kind of underestimated, people don't really hear a lot about, is cascarilla powder. It's also known as eggshells. You just take eggshells and crush it into a fine powder. Of course, you make sure you clean the eggshells very well, and you dry them out. You sit them somewhere in the sun, make sure they get good and dried, and then you just crush them into a powder. You'd need a lot of it, a lot of eggshells to make a decent amount of this powder. That powder was used in hoodoo and voodoo and folk magic and all sorts of different traditions, but that is a great substitute for salt. But salt is a good one to have. A couple crystals. I would definitely, just one and only crystal I would say start off with would be quartz crystal, just because you can kind of charge it with whatever you would like. It doesn't have, even though it has its own energy in there, it doesn't have necessarily one particular purpose. It's great for charging and adding intent into it. So even though it's really good for protection and stuff like that, you can also charge it for something else if you need, like if you need a stone for abundance or love. You could actually charge your quartz crystal for those purposes as well. So it's really useful for that benefit. Let's see. I do say keep a little rose quartz around, just because I think rose quartz is great to use in situations of love and friendship, and I don't always mean like love and friendship like to try to find friends or to try to find love, but it can also be to help ease a situation between like you and a friend, or you and a lover, or something like that, you and a partner. It can be great for those purposes. So I would say, if you were to get stones, rose quartz and clear quartz. Let's see. You have water. Water, is around you all the time. So water is a great tool that can be used for cleansing. It can be used to represent, the element of water itself. You can use water, add salt to it to make like a blessed water, almost like a holy water, and you can use that in all sorts of workings. So of course, water. But let's I like to say acorns. Acorns are really, they're very, I do use the word traditional sometimes, maybe more often than I would like, but I do use the term traditional. It is a traditional symbol of a witch and witchcraft. It's a symbol of protection. I actually had read somewhere a long time ago about how back in the day, that's kind of a way that one witch would know another witch, is that they would give them an acorn as like a gift, and it was a way of saying, here's protection, like I'm not here to harm you, something like that. And it's also kind of like they said, a way to say, hey, I'm a witch too, But let's see. I like to find any kind of twigs and stuff like that, limbs, things like that you're attracted to. There's no reason not to keep them. I mean, of course, unless you just don't want them lying around somewhere you don't really know what to use them for. But stuff like that's really great to use for almost anything. A lot of woods have multiple purposes and multiple correspondences for them, so you can use them in a lot of different workings. Also, they can represent Earth in itself, and it's a way to feel connected to the Earth and to nature while being indoors. So, something like that's great to have. Now, if you do have a religious aspect to your practice, or if you are in a coven that asks for things, or like, specific tools and stuff for you to have, those would be, I guess, the ones that you typically see more in like TV and stuff like that. It'd be your athame, your cauldron, your chalice, your besom, maybe a dagger, a wand, things like that. But make sure you just know your practice and know the path that you're kind of going down, and know that if you're not in any one of these like covens or one of these groups, or like a religious kind of path with it, that there are no really tool requirements. But candles, by the way, is another great one, because you can get candles pretty cheap, in different places, dollar stores, Dollar Generals. Some metaphysical and spiritual shops have them at really good deals. So candles is a great thing to have. Now, even though I have kind of repeated myself a couple times about, I don't think tools are required, there is one tool that I say is required other than yourself, and that is your Book of Shadows. Typically a Book of Shadows, look, I said typically again, darn it. So generally speaking, Book of Shadows is a book where you keep it's like a diary of your magical workings, whatever it is, whatever type of workings you're doing. Maybe not just magical per se, but just your workings in general. It could be like for your dreams, it could be for your divination, it could be a combination, it could be for herbalism, your magical stuff, just whatever you want it to be. I do suggest for people to have one of those, just because it's a way to help you see how your practice has grown and how it grows over the years and over the time of you practicing it. Also, it's kind of a guide for you. You see the things that work for you and see the things that didn't, and that kind of helps keep you on a path that's right for you, your own personal path. So I think Book of Shadows are wonderful to have. It's also a way to remember things. If you want to write down correspondences for certain things, you write those, whatever it is, your herbs or your stones or whatever, and hours of the day, and you write the correspondence for each item or each whatever it is. That way it kind of gives you like a reference guide to go back and forth to if you need. So that is one thing that I do suggest every practitioner has. And your Book of Shadows, by the way, let me tell you, it does not have to be fancy. Please do not go out thinking you got to spend all this money on it. It doesn't matter if it is like scraps of paper that you've written stuff on and you've just put into a binder or into a folder, okay? That can be your Book of Shadows. It really, really doesn't matter. It can be fancy, it can be a notebook, a sketchbook, it can be small, it can be large, it can be leather bound, paper bound. whatever it is, okay? That's up to you. Whatever you want to start off with, you know, you will drive yourself crazy trying to get this perfect, like image of like what you see on TV and movies and whatnot of what like a Book of Shadows or Grimoire kind of thing might be. And that does not have to be yours, okay? Please don't go to the extremes to have one of these. I mean, maybe eventually you can, by all means, but in the beginning, it's not really necessary. You know, just get something basic to start off with. You know, because like I said, it's not a requirement, but I think that's something great to have. So start off small, work your way up, and just see what's best for you, you know? Don't take my word for it. I just, like... I like to give you a little bit of advice, just kind of see what you think, you know, kind of give you a guide of where to start off, you know, per se. So, anyway, I feel like I've kind of rambled a lot more than I wanted to in this one, but I hope that, you know, I've kind of explained enough about tools and about which ones you may want to start off with if you are practicing, if you are beginning in your practicing. Gosh, I can't even say that right. Whew. Let's try that again, okay? If you are, you know what, I can't say it. My mouth literally will not let me say it. So I'm just going to skip it. You know what I mean. I'm sure you know what I mean. So, anyway, take care. I hope I've answered some questions for you. If not, feel free to leave some comments below. Ask me some questions. Just talk to me if you want to. That's fine. Give me a like and a subscribe. And I will do my best to remember the things that I'm trying to say and not get tongue twisted and tied up as much as I do. So, take care. I really appreciate y'all sticking around. Just know that it really means the world to me, you know, when you watch my videos, and even if you don't really like click the like button or comment on them and stuff, just knowing that you're watching the videos and stuff and watching it all the way through, I appreciate it. So anyway, take care of yourselves. I hope everyone's doing well. Stay safe out there. Like I always say, be kind and take no shit. Later.